Welcome back to the channel. What's it like to start a business in the United States versus the United Kingdom? If you're thinking about launching your own venture or just curious about the challenges and opportunities on both sides of the Atlantic, this video is for you. And stay with me because we'll cover everything from registration costs to taxes, funding options, culture, and even day-to-day operations. Let's begin by looking at ease of starting a business. In both countries, starting a business is relatively straightforward compared to global standards, but the processes differ. In the US, you can form a business at the state level, which means procedures and fees vary depending on where you incorporate. For example, Delaware is famous for its business-friendly laws and low costs, and many US startups incorporate there even if they operate elsewhere. In most states, registering an LLC, one of the most popular structures for small businesses, can cost anywhere from $50 to $500, with annual maintenance fees varying widely. Paperwork is minimal in many places, and you can often complete the process online in a matter of days. In the UK, setting up a business is highly centralized. You register with Companies House, the government agency responsible for company incorporation. Registering a private limited company typically costs just $12 if done online and can be completed within 24 hours. The process is remarkably simple and inexpensive by international standards. So, in terms of upfront paperwork and cost, the UK comes out ahead on simplicity and affordability. But the US offers flexibility through its state-based system, which can be advantageous for structuring your business. Next, let's talk about taxes, a major consideration for any entrepreneur. In the US, corporate taxes are levied at both the federal and, in most cases, state level. The federal corporate tax rate is currently around 21%. But when you add state taxes, total rates can climb to 25 or 30%, depending on where you operate. Small businesses often choose pass-through taxation by forming an LLC or S corporation, where profits flow directly to the owner's personal tax return. While this avoids corporate tax at the entity level, it means you pay personal income tax on your profits, which can range from 10% to 37% federally, plus state income taxes. In the UK, corporation tax is currently 25% on profits above $250,000, with a tapered rate for profits between $50,000 and $250,000. Dividends drawn from company profits are also taxed at personal income tax rates, but with some allowances. In short, tax structures in both countries can be complex and depend heavily on your business structure and income level. But overall, corporate tax rates are fairly similar when you account for state-level taxes in the US. Let's move on to ongoing compliance and reporting requirements. In the US, annual compliance varies by state but usually involves filing annual reports and paying fees, which can range from minimal to several $100s per year. In addition, federal requirements apply to businesses that cross state lines or operate in regulated industries. In the UK, there are uniform rules. All companies must submit annual accounts and a confirmation statement to Companies House. Tax filings must be submitted to HMRC, the tax authority, each year. Overall, compliance in the UK is more standardized and predictable. In the US, it can feel more fragmented because every state has its own rules. What about access to funding and capital? The US has a reputation for being a powerhouse in venture capital and angel investing, particularly for startups in technology, biotech, and innovation-driven sectors. Silicon Valley, New York, Boston. These cities are magnets for investors looking to back early-stage companies, and there's a massive ecosystem built to support high-growth entrepreneurship. In the UK, London is Europe's largest financial hub, and the venture capital scene has grown dramatically over the last decade. However, the scale is smaller, and competition for funding can be fierce with fewer overall investors compared to the US market. So while it's possible to secure funding in both countries, the US generally offers larger pools of capital and a more mature venture ecosystem, especially for ambitious startups with plans to scale rapidly. Let's talk about workforce and hiring. In the US, employment law is relatively flexible. At-will employment allows employers to hire and fire more easily than in most other countries. This makes scaling a business quicker and easier, but it can also create challenges for employees, leading to high turnover in some industries. In the UK, employment laws offer more protection for workers. Notice periods, redundancy payments, and stronger rights against unfair dismissal all affect how entrepreneurs hire and manage staff. These protections mean that while it may take longer to restructure a workforce in the UK, employees may feel more secure, contributing to loyalty and retention. What about labor costs? In the US, the minimum wage varies by state but is generally lower than the UK's national minimum wage, which is currently over $11 an hour for workers aged 23 and over. In addition, healthcare is a huge difference. In the US, employers often provide private health insurance to full-time employees, which can add significant costs to payroll. In the UK, the National Health Service reduces this burden, as basic healthcare is publicly funded. So, when you factor in benefits, hiring costs for employers can be significantly higher in the US than in the UK, even if wages are comparable. Let's not forget business culture and mindset. The US has a strong culture of entrepreneurship, risk-taking, and innovation. Failure is often seen as part of the journey, and second or third attempts are common and accepted. This mindset encourages people to start businesses even if the odds are tough. In the UK, entrepreneurship is increasingly popular, but cultural attitudes can be a little more cautious. Risk-taking is still admired, but there tends to be more stigma attached to failure. On the other hand, networks and communities for entrepreneurs are strong in both countries. And whether you're launching in New York, San Francisco, London, or Manchester, you can tap into incubators, accelerators, and support programs designed to help startups grow. Now let's quickly cover access to international markets. The US offers access to the world's largest consumer market, more than 330 million people with high disposable income. The UK, while smaller with around 67 million residents, serves as a gateway to Europe and has strong trading ties globally, particularly with Commonwealth countries. Post-Brexit, some friction has emerged in trade with the European Union, but the UK still offers excellent infrastructure for companies aiming for international growth. So which country is better for starting a business? If your focus is on building a high-growth startup in tech or finance, and you're seeking large-scale venture capital, the US likely offers more opportunity and a larger market to grow into, but at the cost of higher healthcare-related labor expenses and complex state-by-state compliance. If you're looking for simplicity in company formation, standardized compliance, lower upfront costs, and more affordable labor benefits, the UK may be the better environment, particularly for small to medium enterprises targeting Europe or global markets. Before we finish, let's go a bit deeper into some sector-specific opportunities because not all industries thrive equally in both countries. In the tech sector, the US dominates globally. Silicon Valley alone is home to thousands of startups and some of the world's biggest tech companies. Venture capital availability, access to talent, and a culture of innovation all support tech entrepreneurs. Cities like Austin, Boston, and Seattle are also thriving tech hubs. In the UK, London is the heart of the country's tech scene, with growing ecosystems in Manchester, Cambridge, and Edinburgh. Fintech, in particular, has become a UK strength companies. Innovating in banking, payments, and financial services are well supported by London's status as a global financial center. But the sheer scale of the US tech market means that entrepreneurs looking for hyper-growth opportunities still gravitate toward American cities. If we look at creative industries, the UK punches above its weight. Film, music, publishing, and design have deep roots and a strong cultural reputation, with London often seen as a global creative capital. Government support programs, tax incentives for film and TV, and international prestige make the UK attractive for entrepreneurs in these sectors. In contrast, the US creative industry is vast and commercially driven, with bigger budgets and greater opportunities for scale, but also far more competition. Now let's talk about retail and e-commerce. In the US, the size of the consumer market provides massive opportunities. American consumers spend more per capita than most countries, and the infrastructure for shipping, logistics, and fulfillment is highly developed. In the UK, while the domestic market is smaller, e-commerce penetration is actually higher on a per capita basis. British consumers are more accustomed to online shopping and home delivery, and businesses can tap into this behavior effectively. However, due to the smaller population, scaling a purely domestic UK retail business quickly hits natural limits. Let's also discuss franchise opportunities. The US is the world's largest market for franchising. Entrepreneurs can buy into thousands of franchise models from food chains to fitness centers, and there's a well-established ecosystem of franchisors and franchisees. The legal framework is mature, but entering the market can involve high initial fees and complex agreements. In the UK, franchising is also growing steadily but remains smaller. Well-known global brands operate in the UK, and the regulatory environment is favorable, but Now, an important issue many entrepreneurs overlook: access to talent and visas for foreign founders. In the U.S., immigration policy is a key challenge. The visa process for entrepreneurs is complex, with no simple startup visa program at the federal level. Options like the E-2 visa or the O-1 visa exist, but they require significant investment or proof of exceptional ability. For international entrepreneurs, this can be a significant barrier to launching in the U.S. The U.K. offers more straightforward routes. The Innovator Founder Visa and Startup Visa programs are designed specifically for entrepreneurs looking to set up in the UK. These programs require a viable business plan endorsed by an approved organization, but don't require large initial investments, making them more accessible for early-stage founders. So for non-citizens, the UK could offer an easier pathway to launch a business legally and begin trading, compared to the more restrictive US system. Let's briefly touch on government support programs and incentives. In the UK, programs like the Enterprise Investment Scheme, EIS, and Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, SEIS, provide significant tax incentives for investors backing small businesses. These schemes make it easier for startups to attract angel investors, since investors can offset much of the risk through tax relief. In the U.S., tax incentives for small businesses vary state by state. Federal programs like the Small Business Administration, SBA, offer support in the form of loan guarantees, counseling, and education. However, there's no national equivalent to SEIS or EIS that offers the same kind of generous tax relief to private investors. Finally, let's talk about digital infrastructure and business tools. Both countries have excellent digital infrastructure, but there are nuances. The U.S. has robust cloud service ecosystems, payment platforms, and a wide choice of e-commerce integrations. However, competition is fierce, and consumer expectations for speed, convenience, and service are very high. The UK also offers a well-developed digital business environment, with widespread adoption of online accounting, tax filing, and payment platforms. Additionally, the UK government has made major strides in digitizing bureaucracy. Business owners can interact with HMRC and Companies House almost entirely online, with relatively simple systems for VAT, payroll, and tax management. In short, the UK wins slightly on bureaucracy and administration simplicity, while the US still holds the edge on pure scale and breadth of services. So what does this all mean? When thinking about where to start a business, the better choice depends heavily on your goals, your industry, and your audience. If you're looking for a huge domestic market, large funding opportunities, and a culture that celebrates entrepreneurial ambition, the US may still be the place to be, despite higher healthcare-related labor costs, complex compliance requirements, and challenges for foreign founders. But if you value ease of setup, predictable compliance, more affordable labor benefits, a welcoming visa pathway for entrepreneurs, and solid access to European and Commonwealth markets, the UK offers a compelling environment, particularly for small and medium enterprises, creative businesses, and those serving global customers from a centralized, English-speaking base. Ultimately, both countries offer world-class opportunities, but they come with different systems, expectations, and costs. That's why, before making any decisions, it's essential to take a holistic view, not just taxes or registration fees, but the entire landscape: funding, hiring, growth potential, bureaucracy, and even how business culture aligns with your own working style. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, let me know in the comments. If you were starting a business tomorrow, which country would you pick, and why? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.